Hi and welcome to the Homeopathy Health Show. I'm Atiq Ahmed Bhatti, a fourth generation homeopath with over 25 years of professional experience and practice in this field of healing. The Homeopathy Health Show is the online voice of homeopathy around the world, promoting and raising awareness of this truly unique system of healing, which is suitable for all ages, young and old. Every week I invite guests from the world of homeopathy to come and share their experiences, their work, offer insights, and essentially talk all things homeopathy. Why not visit www.liketreatslike.co.uk and click on the radio and podcast button to listen to the latest episodes. So let's begin today's show here on UK Health Radio, the world's #1 talk health radio. Hi, welcome to another episode of the Homeopathy Health Show here on the UK Health Radio Network with me, Atiq Ahmed Bhatti, and it's always an honor and delight to talk to you all and share all things homeopathy, wellness and well-being. Now, you will remember that in episode 68, I had the good fortune and honor to speak with Wes Fineday, who is from Sweetgrass First Nation in Saskatchewan in Canada. And that episode was aptly named Medicine Man. And I'm just as honored, if not more so, and humbled to welcome Wes Fineday back to the Homeopathy Health Show for part 2, aptly named Medicine Man 2. And we're going to talk about a great number of things, very much to do with wellness and well-being and understanding ourselves and what is around us, about being humble, about appreciating what we have, and how to move forward in life. So without further ado, Wes Fineday, my dear friend, joining me all the way from Canada. Absolute honor to welcome you back to the show.
Why, thank you. Yes, I live in a place called Sweetgrass, and it sits at the top of the Eagle Hills in north central Saskatchewan. So that's where I live, that's where I grew up, and that's where my history is. And you know, growing up there, I became intimately acquainted with the land. I had to become very knowledgeable about the land as a child because we were restricted only to being on our reserve. We could not leave it. And so we explored it. We became we knew where the hazelnut trees were. We knew where the berry trees were, the pincherries, chokecherries, cranberries, all of these berries whose trees, the fruit of these trees, we use them and eat them to maintain our wealth, our health and well-being. But there are times when we would still go out of balance. And so what you would do, you would go to a part of the plant that is more powerful and potent than the berries, which would be the bark. And you would make teas out of the bark. And, some of those barks, for instance, are about maintaining your blood pressure. But, if you still have problems that persist after treating with those levels, then you would go to the root of the plant, which is much more potent and very powerful. So, there's stages in which we would use that plant during different times when we were, having, for instance, flus and colds, which are normal and natural. But we would have a mixture of tea to drink with that, which had been formulated by my grandmother, who herself was an old medicine woman. She delivered, some people say, almost 100 babies during her lifetime. And so she knew all about birthing medicine. She knew the trees that would help, and there's times, for instance, when women have problems like breech births. The kid comes out feet first, and there's actually a plant that you can take and you can make a brew out of the root. and give it to that woman who is experiencing that breech birth, and that baby will actually go back up and flip itself around and come out head first. And, when you understand these things, for instance, too, that in many situations, women died having kids. Well, you had a child without a caregiver. Well, it needs to be fed. There is another plant that you can boil up, just 4 of them, four flowers, boiled up in a liter of water that you can give to that woman to drink, and she would start producing milk, even if she didn't have a baby, so that then she could take over raising that baby. And these things are so incredible, if you understand them, if you know them. There are protocols, though, that you can't just run around picking and taking medicines. You have to learn about them. It's important to understand not only yourself, but to the plants around you and to the world. Like many of our medicines have plants. Many of our medicines also include parts of animals, you see. Yeah. And, so we have to develop that relationship, and we have to ensure that when we take these things for our health and well-being, that we put them to good use. It's no point to heal somebody who has cancer who wants to just get healed so they can go drinking, you see. And waste their time like that, waste their life like that. One day, I was in the lodge, and the spirits came to me, and they told me that on the following day, there are going to be 5 young men that are coming to see you. They have various injuries, and they're not, now that they are injured and unable to carry on in a normal way, now they think about spirituality. Now they decided they're going to seek spiritual help, and they decided to come and ask you. But when they arrive, they will follow the protocols. They will bring tobacco, which opens the doorway to the knowledge of the sacred and healing and teaching. They will also bring payment for your services, because we cannot treat people simply. We cannot volunteer our services, because we've spent so much time acquiring the knowledge that we have. And, payment in the form of money and a blanket and tobacco. And when they arrive at your door, the spirits instructed me, they will make this presentation, and at that time explain to them that you're not the person they're looking for. And that's all you have to do. And the next day that did happen, and these young men came over, and they talked about having been in a car accident, and they had all got injured, various injuries, and they were asking if they could get spiritual help for their healing process. And I told them that I was not the person that they were looking for, and that they would have to do some work. It's not, spirituality is not something you think about simply when you're in distress. It should be an everyday component of your life. When you wake up in the morning, you should open your eyes and give thanks to Creator. You have been gifted another day on this physical world.
Absolutely.
And welcome that. And look forward to the mystery and the wonder that you will come into contact with on that day, you see. Because it's amazing. The first thing that happened this morning when I woke up was the birds came. Magpies came. They're landing on my railing. They want their breakfast. So I have to feed them peanuts. And when my wife fed them peanuts, then the cat got mad. So, I mean, there's all these things happening.
It's a busy morning.
Yeah. But it's winter time. We look out and we see snow. And snow for us is a symbol of the cold. And the cold that usually emanates from the north. You see, in the north, we have the entities that are able to reside comfortably in the cold, in the same way that we are able to exist and live in our environment. Well, there are entities who require and need the cold to survive. Yeah. And those are our northern neighbors. Then we go into that's where for us all things began. Not only in you could say, what was the emptiness of the heavens when there was a great explosion, lots of noise, and it was a long time in happening. But out of that noise and confusion, and there arose the spirits that would be responsible for maintaining order in this dimension, the dimension that we live in. And the first one that arrived, that became visible to us, we call Kiwetin. And Kiwetin, in our language, one of the meanings of Kiwetin is simply the direction north. And Kiwetin has a connection to going home. Kiwe, go home. Kiwetin, from the north, where we came from our home. But the first spirit that appeared was Kiwetin, which is a branch of Yutin, a branch of the wind spirits. Because the wind arose at that great explosion and began to flow, and the wind said that it will forever be blowing and flowing throughout all dimensions of creation. Forever. For that was the job that Creator gave it in the beginning. And it brings things, and it picks up things, and it hauls things away. It maintains your environment, you could say. But, in the beginning, that's the beginning of the human story, our story. When the spirits were brought into this dimension, and the story goes, they began to multiply. They began to pair up and, form unions, and they began to have young ones, and they began to multiply. And throughout the ages, they began to grow in numbers. And Kiwetin had his partner was called Chipstikwan, the rolling head. And she was named that as an afterthought in our stories. We don't ever hear what her name was before, but it was because of experiences and activities that she became known as the rolling head in our stories. And Kiwetin and Chipstikwan had two boys. One of them was called Wisaheza, and one of them was called Mahikans, the little wolf. These are sacred stories that are reserved for telling only in the wintertime. And in the wintertime, you had to come in early because it gets dark early, and you couldn't be staying outside because it's cold. And so they would invite old people who had this ancient knowledge and sacred stories. They would invite them to come over to our house, and we would be made to sit around and listen to these things as children. And that's where we learned about who we were and what we were. We are Nehiawak, we are the four-dimensional people, and we have to be aware of all of our dimensions. You're a spirit, you're a soul. That requires caretaking, that requires nurturing. Your soul requires ceremony, and ceremony is an expression of emotion or devotion, emotion, but it's connected to your emotional dimension. And that's what the spirit requires to be nurtured. So where does that come from? That comes from your experiences. You have positive and negative experiences that give rise to your emotions. And we can guide a lot of those things intellectually with our thought. What kind of things do we want to become involved in, and what kind of emotions do we need to experience to keep us understanding that, we can never give up hope. We can never give up hope in this lifetime, that we are here to evolve. We are in a state of evolution. And that is incredibly challenging. We have survived many, many challenges in the past. When you think about the fact, for instance, that you have had millions of ancestors, and you are here today, it wasn't because they sailed through without any challenges. It was because they stood up and they faced the challenges and they survived the challenges. And it created incredibly strong, knowledgeable people who could look into the future because they had been to the past already. They were moving from the past, and from the past came their stories of what to expect and how to deal with things in the future.
Mm.
And so one of the things we teach our young people is to become disciplined. Become disciplined enough so that you can sit in silence without fidgeting, but sit in silence and be focused on what it is that you are hearing, so that it can become a part of you, and then you can begin to process what you have learned, because it is only through processing that you will reach an understanding. You cannot hoard knowledge and still think it's yours. You have to take what you have from the experiences that you have and the things that you've learned. That's what is going to define who you are and how you face your future. How you face your past. That's where, it's important, incredibly. But that's where we say, for instance, develop the discipline so that in the event, you find yourself alone in this grand creation of creators, you have only yourself to rely on and count on. And you have miracles happening in front of your eyes. For instance, one time as I sat in my fasting lodge, I heard a noise, and I looked up, and it was coming from the east. And when I looked to the east, I saw horses. There was 4 of them. and they stood there and looked at me. And then all of a sudden, they began to run in a circle, and they ran toward the southern part of the circle, and they stopped there. They had started in the east, so that's in the eastern doorway. They ran around to the southern doorway, and they entered from the southern doorway. And for me, that makes a difference because the spirits in the south are, you could say, less stern. They're
Right.
less fearful, They not as terrifying when you first see them and hear them. And
Why is that? What's
it's
the reason there?
gentle way to be introduced to the spirit world.
Is there a particular reason for that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because your spirit, when you're terrified, your spirit loses its connection to your body. The connection of the spirit, of the soul to your body becomes loosened, and any trauma, any surprise or shock, it can send your spirit flying out of your body.
Right.
Your spirit cannot, well, it can exist without a body, but not in a healthy way. And when that happens, for instance, there are spirits that are always around us, that require no invitation. They simply seek an opportunity to invade you, become part of your body if you leave yourself open. And that's why we have these shields. So, and, not only the shields, but the understanding that we have to protect what we have because it is precious. Protect your emotions. Try to have, guide your emotional experiences into something positive rather than living in fear of your emotions, because fear will drain will rip your soul out of your body. And once your body is vacant, then it can become inhabited by other souls, the ones who wait for opportunities. The ones who work for Creator, we say that they will ask to be invited in. And that's where ceremony is important. I give thanks to Creator. I invite the spirits that work for Creator to come to me and stay with me, during this portion of my life. And so that's a level of protection, to be protected by those spirits that you have asked to protect you. It's important when you understand, when you begin to communicate with spirits, you have to learn to communicate in a way that you cannot be misunderstood. And, so you have to learn to say exactly, pinpoint, I guess, your concerns and ways that you would like to see them resolved, rather in positive ways with healthy benefits, rather than with, withdrawal and loss. Today, these things are important. I look around and I see all these storms that are happening on the earth. And those storms are the results of emotions. Emotions have an energy. They have causes and effects. When you have negative emotions, they cannot fly. And so they fall to the earth. And the earth gathers up all our negative emotions and then takes them down into her core and processes them before sending them back up. And when she releases them from her core and sends them back up, they manifest themselves at the surface of the earth as tornadoes, as floods, as fires, as, all of these things that are seen to have such negative experiences on humanity. Humans have caused that with their negativity, emotional. We are responsible for that. And all of a sudden, I hear people saying, oh, the earth is mad, the earth is angry, and what have we done? Or why is it angry, it's because of our behavior. It's because we have lost our respect for it. We think, well, it's here, so we can do with it whatever we please. In fact, we're told that we are the bosses of the earth. Well, we're not. We're simply the keepers of the earth, the stewards. And it is our job to make this earth a healthy, thriving place with a lot of beautiful plants and growth and animals and insects, and help create or co-create an environment that we can not only exist in, but thrive, you see. And so many reasons for that. I hear people, I see people, I hear people, I look at news, and people are worried about getting wrinkles.
Yeah.
Well, they should raise bees. They should eat honey, a spoonful a day.
Mm.
That'll help your skin health and your complexion. All these animals that have all these connections that we rely on, we forgot those. We forgot that. And, we've destroyed their environment. And can we still expect their help? Or do we have to stop and reflect and change our behavior so that we're more suited as a thriving member of creation, of God's creation, you could say? Kasi eman ito, our loving creator, demonstrate that we are worthy children who have respect and who walk according to the systems of things. I sometimes find it hard to try and explain, because there are systems of things, there are processes, you see. And where do we fit it? And how can we become part of these systems seamlessly without disrupting anything and bringing something positive to the systems? It's like farming.
I think, Wes, it's about boundaries. We need to know that we are custodians of everything that is on this planet, but that doesn't mean that we take advantage in such a way that it becomes troublesome, which it certainly seems to have become nowadays in this current time period. We need to be respectful. There are boundaries, and I know you mentioned this last time when we spoke. We need to know those boundaries, and they can be in our mind, which you so eloquently said last time, or they can be physical manifestation of those boundaries. But I think that's what it's about, isn't it? It's about being grateful. You said when you wake up, be grateful that you've woken up and you've got another day, or maybe God knows how many hours or whatever. But it's about humility and gratitude and trying to be really just to live humbly, because it's it's nothing new that everybody seems to be talking about World War III at the moment. And it's becoming very, very scary and very worrying. And, why are people making these decisions? Why are people so egotistic that it will create devastation for generations,
That's right. And not only for people, but for animals.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we've had such devastating creations in terms of technology and stuff that, but we haven't evolved emotionally or intellectually to be able to understand what positive uses for this technology can be. It's still about we can blow things apart and take things apart and take what we need and throw the rest into a garbage pile. And I mean, there is no garbage.
Wes, I was you'll find this interesting, and I'm sure you already know this, but there's a lot of talk about climate change. Now, when we look at the different wars that are taking place around the world and the weapons that are being used, that's probably the largest contributor to global change and global warming, or climate change, let's say, compared to what we are outputting, as humanity on a normal level, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to look that way. Isn't it interesting?
Yes. And when we stumble upon, discover things like that, it's always about, oh, this could be so useful, because this is what we can do with it. Great sources of new energy, and all of a sudden, it's being used to build bombs. What's that about? You know?
It's so
Yeah.
odd, isn't it? We're in such a, I mean, for the listeners of the show, of course, but everything I'm saying is it's all out there, and it's very worrying for just normal people who just want to live their life and who are doing good for others, and there are people who are making decisions which are totally against anything that we can comprehend, to be honest. Any sensible, rational person would say, what's wrong with you? What are you doing? Why? Is your ego that big? Are you so arrogant? This is not your planet.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And, the more we retreat in fear into ourselves, the more alienated and isolated and lost and lonesome we will become.
Hmm.
You Yeah. And to the point where we will come to fear our environment. And I was talking to a woman who said, you talk about all these plants and trees as medicine. And yet, when I was a little girl, I was always told, don't bother those, they could poison you, they could hurt you. And so we learned to become afraid of plants. Wow. You know. And, well, where do you get your medicines from? Oh, the
Hmm.
doctor and the drugstore.
Yeah,
Well, where do you think they got theirs from?
yeah. Yes. Well, the research is, I don't think people don't look past a certain point. It's very much, we don't want to know what's behind the wall, but, our medicine is packaged very nicely. We're happy with that. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to know the story. You're sharing all these stories about, and you were talking, you said something very, very beautiful, which was about the children are trained to listen. In the Western world, it's so hard because of, electronics and just lifestyle that children do not listen. But they need to, because that is the training that is goodness for them, for theirs. It's sanctity, isn't it? It's passing information on in a trust, and that
Mhm.
once it's absorbed, it can carry on generations. Otherwise, it's just in books, and books. I love books, everybody does, but it's not the same feeling as being told one on one or face to face, is it? You know?
Absolutely. One of the people that I interact with is a psychologist. And he was certain that if we got books into every home in my reserve, that it would improve the lives of my people. And I explained to him, well, we're an oral traditional community.
Hmm.
Our understanding and our knowledge is passed on orally. Sure, you can bring books, but if you don't have people who are reading them or they're books about things that are not interesting to people. The improvement they could bring to your community, would be questionable. But it's what's inside those books. It's the knowledge, and it's more than superficial. It's more than a page. It's the marks. Where did that mark come from? What does that mark say? You see, and what is its history, and what is its connection to me? Because there are many writing systems all over the world. Ours is we call it syllabics. Nihio tsakipehana. That's how we record our history. And then our system of recording, for instance, it's more based on seasonal things. Like we have a winter count. I am 77 winters on this earth, you see. And I am a spiritual man. I have been adopted by the spirits. I have been named by the spirits. I work with the spirits. I feel comfortable with the spirits in ways that I cannot feel comfortable with other humans because they're too busy wanting to judge me. See, but not having the tools. They don't know who I really am. And it's like, I work trying to help people understand my culture at places. And, there's always the administrators who had issues with the stories I told. They wanted me to tell stories that they would give me to tell. And I explained to them, those are not mine. Those are your stories. That's your job to tell them. I can only come with mine. And, because of that, there's actually been places, culturally significant places, where I have been asked not to attend anymore because I refuse to tell the stories that they want me to tell. I can speak the truth. That is my work. But I cannot tell your story. I do not connect to the truth of your story. But I understand mine. And I understand the pride it brings to me when I achieve a level of understanding that is validated by the spirits. And the spirits say you are on the right path. Continue, grandchild. It will take you a long ways, rather than, I went to university to talk about sacred laws, universal laws, the laws before what we call laws today were in force and effect. And it's about creators' laws. It's about the spirits who are the enforcers of those laws, the fire, the water, the wind, and the earth. If we stray too far from the healthy boundaries that we are permitted or expected or trained to live in, then we will cause and bring suffering to ourselves. And, sometimes it's not only you, but it can be about people around you. For instance, in the north, there was fires raging across the country. There was this one old Indian woman who lived on the shores of a lake called Turtle Lake, Miskinaxipi. She had a little log house there, her little shack in the bush, hidden away from the tourists, and fire swept through there. She thought she was going to lose everything. She thought she was going to die, and she said she was prepared. She took a braid of sweetgrass out and sat in her yard and prayed as the fire raged around her. A lot of the houses in the development burned down, but when the firestorm was over, her little house was still standing. She was still sitting in front of it. She had spoken to the fire. She had asked the fire to pity her. that she was old and she would be unable to make herself a new house, and she had spent her life here, and she talked in a very emotional way to that fire spirit, and then it went around her. I've seen this myself when a tornado was coming straight at my lodge, and I stood out in front of my lodge and spoke to that tornado spirit, which in my language is called Pistusu. And I said, Pistusu, I come here and I offer you tobacco to show you that I honor and respect you. And I fear you, the damage that you can do if you should come through my yard. I have little ones here. I have old ones here. I have mothers. I have parents. And I ask for your pity that you spare us from any negative things that could happen because of your journey. And that tornado, it turned away from my lodge and it went around, and it went around to the back, and it was as if it had not been to my place, and yet all around me, everything had been blown about. And I asked him to pity us, and prayer is incredibly powerful and potent. You can create changes in your life using the energy and the power of sound and word and your intent.
And that's so important, isn't it? The intent, the intention.
Absolutely.
It has to be pure. It has to be pure. It has to come from the heart. You can't make it in the mind because there's no feeling.
And the mind will want to make it about itself.
Oh, wow. That's I have to say, that's a wonderful story, and it's we've come to the end of this episode, and it's a really beautiful way actually to end this conversation. And of course, Wes, what's going to happen next. I'm going to invite you back again, and we're going to talk much more about this.
Yes. And I was instructed by the spirits who told me that society is suffering from a lack of this kind of information. The young people are so lost. If you begin to tell these stories, they will come. They will internalize, and they will take the teachings and take them out into the world. And so my job is simply to tell these stories, give people hope, give them directions that they can take. And again, I say, make a garden, take a seed, put it in your hand, put it in your mouth, let it exchange information with you, let it take your genetic information and then put it in the ground. And when you do that, using ceremony, when you do that, what that seed does is it will take the genetic information that it has acquired about your body. It will take it into the earth, and it will ask the earth to bring from the level of the minerals and vitamins, which is past the first level of soil. But it will ask the earth to bring those life-giving things that you require from the second level of earth. So that your food then becomes your medicine. And with medicine as your food, I mean, you become powerful, you become knowledgeable, you become caring, you become sharing, you become loving. What is there to fear in that?
It's beautiful. I'm very humbled to call you my friend. I'm honored that you came on again. And of course, for those listeners, we keep in touch. We do message on WhatsApp, and we do keep in touch. And of course, I look forward to seeing you very, very soon. Thank you so much for this opportunity to sit with you again.
Why, thank you. We will do it again.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I do hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of the Homeopathy Health Show. Please do support the show by clicking follow on my socials. Remember, the more exposure the podcast receives, the better for homeopathy around the world. You can find me on Instagram by searching for @like_treatslike, and on both Facebook and TikTok by searching for @like_treatslike. So let's promote the voice of homeopathy on radio and podcast around the world together. Don't forget to visit me online at www.liketreatslike.co.uk and click on the radio and podcast tab. Here you'll be able to see all the guests that have joined me on the show so far, and of course you can stream on demand the latest episode to your mobile, tablet or PC. Until next time, stay safe and take care.